Welcome everybody. I'm Chef Kevin Walker, Executive Chef here at Ansley Golf Club. This is Emeka.
Hi.
Welcome to another edition of Masterclass. Today we're going to be doing a pasta dish. So at the club here, we're lucky enough that we have a pasta maker, extruder, and we make all our own pastas fresh for the dining room. I understand that a lot of people and places can't do that. So if you can't, just whatever pasta you can buy or whatever pasta you'd like to use. The pasta we're doing today is called Paccheri Giovanna. Paccheri is a type of pasta. It's like a small massacholi or a larger penne pasta. And then Giovanna is just a name I added to it. It's actually Italian for Joan, and Joan is my aunt. And so I named this pasta after her. It's a pasta with Italian sausage and some house-made ricotta cheese, basil, and then the pasta, some San Marzano tomatoes, white wine, elephant garlic. We'll make that whole dish up and you'll see it later. So we're gonna start by making the pasta today. We take our pasta and we weigh out the salt and the flour in these containers so they're ready to go. We can just add it to the machine, and then when we're ready we just weigh out the water, the eggs, and the oil. Pasta in an extruder, if you haven't worked with it, has to be much drier than if you're rolling it by hand. So generally if I'm rolling pasta by hand, I use durum flour and I go 6 eggs to a pound and then adjust the water from there. That's similar to what we're doing here. We also use durum flour for our pasta, 00 flour it's called. 00 just means that it's been ground super fine and the gluten content is much lower than, say, a bread flour. So we're gonna go ahead and get this going. We're gonna get the stuff in the machine. It'll mix for about 8 minutes. We'll come back and we'll show you how we cut it. So the dough is done. And I want to give you a look at what it looks like. It looks a lot different than if you're making pasta to roll in a machine. So if we look down in here, you can see that it's very crumbly, but if you squeeze it, it'll hold together. So there it is in there. Emeka's going to set it up, and we're going to run the pasta. Yeah, bigger. A little bit bigger. There you go, right there. So this here is about the size we're looking for. So while Emeka is making the pasta, I'm going to start the sausage. I'm actually grinding sausage for two things. We use it in our bolognese, and I'm making the sausage for our pizza station, and also for this new pasta dish, the Paccheri Giovanna. So we use pork butt, and then we season it up for our Italian sausage. I dice it up. It's right down here. We cube it up, and then I mix it with the seasonings. Then we put it into the blast chiller. We put it in the freezer until it's nice and frozen. If you cube it and it's frozen, you don't need to worry about it getting bound up inside the machine, and you should never have to use the plunger. It should automatically feed by itself. Never grind on speed 2. There's too much friction and you lose the fat gets all messed up on it. The other thing we do is we keep all of our dyes, as soon as they're washed, they go back into a container of cornstarch so they don't rust and they stay nice and dry. So I've got the machine set up over here. We're going to get our sausage up into the hopper. So the sausage is all brown, but I want to show you a little trick. To make sure you clean out the entire worm on the inside and that you get everything out, once you've ground everything, if you take a piece of parchment paper or a piece of plastic, and I'm using the parchment paper that was underneath the sausage, and you feed it into the machine, it'll grind and catch the last of whatever's on the inside, but it gets stopped by the blade. So it won't cut up and it won't come into your product, but it gets everything out of the inside and make sure that you haven't lost any product on the inside. Let's go ahead and make the ricotta cheese for the dish. If you've never made ricotta cheese, it's simple. It's very easy to make. We're gonna make it with whole milk and some sage. We'll infuse the sage into it. What you need is whole milk, either lemon juice, citric acid powder, some kind of vinegar, some kind of acid to curdle the milk. You add the vinegar, some salt, whatever infusions you want to put in there, in this case the sage. You bring it up to 185 degrees, let it set for about 10 minutes, it curdles, and then you pour it out through double cheesecloth. Now, depending on how long it sits in the double cheesecloth, it depends on how dry it becomes. The longer it sits, the drier it becomes. We're going to put it in there and take it out relatively quick because I want the cheese to be kind of creamy. I want it to be able to sit on top of the dish right before it goes out and start melting in and add to the sauce. So we've got our milk on top of the induction burner right here. We're going to add our lemon juice. Add in some salt. And our sage. So the sage, I've taken the bunch of it and I've tied it with butcher's twine. So this way we can put it in, we can allow it to infuse, and then take it out really easily. So you only want to bring the milk to 185 degrees. That's important. So we're going to add this in, and we're going to let it come up to temperature. Make sure you're stirring the milk from time to time to keep it from scorching to the bottom of the pan. Okay, so we're back at the ricotta cheese. We've just hit 185 degrees. You look down here. We're just hitting 185. Sorry, trying to get the camera straight. We'll shut this off. You can see that it's split. And we're going to let it set for about 10 minutes, and then we'll strain it. Okay, so we've been here for 10 minutes. We're going to take and strain the cheese through the cheesecloth. Now put it away and let it sit. The longer you let it drain, the drier it's going to be. So we'll let it go for a while. We'll check it, and then we'll adjust it from there. Okay, so the cheese is drained. We're going to get it out of the cheesecloth and get it into a container, and then we'll be ready to make our dish. So right over here, we've got the cheese. And I'm going to bring it out onto a sheet tray. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer as much of it as possible into this container. And the rest of it we'll scrape off with a cheesecloth so we get as much as possible. Okay, so we have everything ready for the pasta. We've got our San Marzano tomatoes, Italian sausage, garlic, olive oil, white wine, the Paccheri pasta, and the house-made ricotta to finish with, and basil. So we have our water on the stove, and as everybody knows, right, you need to salt the water. It should taste like the sea. That's what we tell our cooks. So we're going to put the pasta in and get that started. And while that's going, we'll heat up our pan. And we're going to start with the sausage. Once the pan gets hot, a little bit of olive oil. Add our garlic. San Marzano tomatoes. White wine. Basil. That's good. Add a little bit of the pasta water. Bring it all together. And then we're going to top it with a little bit of the ricotta cheese. Back up on me. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Masterclass from Club and Resort Chef Magazine. I'm Chef Kevin here at Ansley Golf Club. I hope you enjoy the dish. Bon appetit.